Hello, Savannah. Hello, 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 and welcome to another edition of Candidly Kesha with me, Alderwoman Kesha Gibson Carter. Listen, we're going to jump right into some council updates and give you a bird's eye view into a number of things that we passed during the last council meeting. We pledged to keep you informed. We pledged to advocate for you, to serve you, and to lead you. But in leading you, it's not simply being in this position and saying that you are an elected official or you are a leader, but it's truly leading from a servant perspective. And in leading from a servant perspective, I recognize the importance of inspiring our electorate, inspiring the citizens of Savannah, who I am called to represent, and to encourage you to engage in the political process. That's what leadership is for me. Leadership for me is inspiring our electorate and encouraging our citizens to engage in the political process, inspiring you and empowering you to take your rightful place in local government. No longer do you beg, you plead, or you ask for what you want. Your position is to tell elected officials how you intend for your tax dollars to be spent. So, on our agenda, we had about 28, 29 items, some added later, everything from purchasing items, alcohol license, and I have to tell you all, bi-weekly, we probably entertain at least a third of our agenda is filled with approval of alcohol license for bars and local restaurants. Savannah is a very wet city. And as a result, one of the things that I've been advocating for is for our liquor and bar serving establishments to become more responsive in their serving so that we are foregoing episodes of sexual violence, whereby alcohol plays a pervasive role in the facilitation and commission of rape. We also have the opportunity to incorporate more responsibility so that we are averting episodes of DUI, drunk driving, and of course, those occurrences sometimes end in vehicular homicide. We want to prevent that as well. And then we have another goal to reduce the number of youth who are purchasing alcohol. So those are some of the goals that are aligned with things that I want to work on. And we're hoping to get that moving again. We have an intrepid team. I want to send shots out to, I'm going to get in trouble for calling names, but Lindsay Grovenstein, Teresa Wow, and Mr. Jim Deal. They have been leading the charge in this effort, and we're hopeful that the city staff will bring us back together again real soon to continue this great work. We had a proclamation for Omar Temple number 21. You can go to the City of Savannah website and follow along with me and click on Clerk of Council, go from Clerk of Council to City of Savannah City Council meeting agenda, and you will see the November 9th agenda there. Listen, guys, we don't spend money once a month in the City of Savannah. We spend money every 2 weeks, and I'm talking big money, big money. Yes, we are spending and clocking lots of dollars here in the City of Savannah. First, before we got to business, we had the honor of recognizing Omar Temple Prince Hall affiliate number 21, Omar Temple number 21, that is, for their service to Savannah at the tune of 115 years. So congratulations to all the bros out there. I love to see that camel walk. And then we had on the agenda to authorize the city manager to expend resources already allocated for the arena via the SPLOS dollars. That SPLOS was this SPLOS for the arena dedicated $165 million. Of that $165 million, about $217,000 was spent on lighting and basketball backstops. Lighting and basketball backstops for the arena via SPLOS. Now, this was a pre-approved SPLOS before our council. We're essentially just acting on it. It's kind of painful for me to ever vote on anything with that arena, and that I firmly believe that it is going to change the complexion. It's going to change those communities surrounding the arena, Brickyard, Cloverdale, Carver Village. If we don't get ahead of this and do something about the gentrification that's occurring right now in real time, those communities will be a thing of the past. And so we want our residents to continue to keep your eye on it. I know we have some intrepid neighborhood association presidents of Cloverdale, one in particular, Miss Melinda Gwen Thornton, and they are working tirelessly to keep their residents informed and keep that community protected. We also authorized the city manager to execute a contract in the amount of $450,000, almost $500,000. And this was for a contract to leachate, pumping, and hauling services with ED Trucking for $450,000. This contract will be utilized to remove and transport landfill leachate from Dean Forest Landfill to the city's wastewater treatment facility for disposal. I want the residents of West Chatham community to know that I am still here, dedicated to advocating for you. I know that items like this bring up a sore space and spot for you, in that your community has been infringed upon by many of the development divisions that's going on in that area, as well as that landfill. So we are continuously advocating. Please stay in touch with us. And we want to send a shout out to, her name is escaping me right now. I can't believe, Carrie Bieber. You're going to get me for that one, Carrie. Carrie is the intrepid leader of that organization, and she works very hard to keep them in the know. We authorized the city manager to execute a contract for scanning and index services for Intellex in the amount of $150,000 to scan and index city records, specifically those city records in our HR department. Welcome, 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 Dr. Amir Teray. We will be having him join us to talk about Stillwell. We're going to talk about the African-American agenda, or the lack of the African-American agenda, and what that looks like. We had an opportunity to speak with the Savannah Black Chamber as their morning speaker, and we want to just have him weigh in a little bit on that. But listen, I'm going to thumb through here. This, I highlighted the scanning and index services. It's not that important. It's where I had to let you know about it, but I highlighted it because this data primarily is helping us move quicker from the Savannah Morning News building. Okay, so what does that mean? What is she talking about? The city of Savannah, for a period of 5 years, leased space. When you say we rented the Savannah Morning News building, we did not rent the Savannah Morning News building. We leased a floor in the Savannah Morning News building for about 3-4 departments, totaling less than 100 people. A floor. Guess how much we were paying per month for a lease? We were paying nearly $65,000 a month. $65,000 a month to rent one floor inside this Savannah Morning. So you know that was a sweet deal that was brokered by somebody. That was a friends helping friends contract, because that made absolutely no sense to have the most important, one of the most important, two actually of the most important departments to our city, one being community services, which housed community services representatives who are supposed to be assigned to our various neighborhoods. Savannah Morning News is literally almost out of Savannah. They're out Chatham Parkway. So how was it that we justified putting city services and city service workers all the way out Chatham Parkway when they're supposed to be dedicated to us here in Savannah, in the inner city of Savannah, I should say? And then the IT department. Well, IT is all the way out Chatham Parkway, and the only offices out Chatham Parkway are the offices that they share with those two other departments, but everybody else is in the city. Where do you do this? Where? Savannah, Georgia, great state of Chatham. where people do what they want to do. Right. So we highlighted that to say that we fought, we advocated with passion for us from day one to get out of that lease by December 31st. And we are getting out of the lease. Yes, City of Savannah residents, your tax dollars was paying Savannah Morning News, and they'll come at us and they'll say, well, it's not owned by Savannah Morning News, it's owned by more. It's all the same people. $65,000 a month, 5 years. That's, if my math is correct, that's probably about what, $5-6 million? What could we have purchased for that? And this was during a time when we were unloading City of Savannah real estate like crazy. The Gamble building, which we were able to salvage and get back, the water building on Broughton Street, sold. The old Catholic diocese on Liberty Street. All of that property was ours, but we sold it. We sold it and we put people in a rent spaces that we owned. When we're talking to you, we're coming from a place of sitting at this table where information is flowing, not freely, but because it's flowing, we're catching it and we're giving it to you. Now, people can, somebody called me today and said, Kesha is down there raising hell and she's going crazy. No, I'm not crazy. Somebody said I was playing crazy. I said, no, I'm not playing crazy. You are really crazy. You crazy for real. I'm not crazy for real. So what we are doing is we are raising awareness. We are bringing into focus what's happening at City Hall. Say what you want, say what you will. For the dissenters, we appreciate all of the supporters and the love that I get. I thank you. But what we have done, Dr. Touré, is we have educated a demographic of people, a community of people who would not have otherwise been engaged in the political process like they are today. There are people who did not understand the difference between the charter and the agenda. They didn't know when the meetings were. They didn't know who the association presidents are. They don't understand the purchasing process. But because the media has made our arrival so sensational and negatively in some regard, that drew people in. But in drawing them in, bless God, and fortunately for us, people are living in a day and an age where they no longer have to rely on people telling them what they think they want to hear. Folks are now able to separate the wheat from the tare. They understand when they are being manipulated. They can recognize when the media is one-sided. So we appreciate that. And we're just going to keep bringing this information to you. If anybody else was at this table, you would not be getting the information that you all are getting. So let's move on. We also executed a contract. I pulled this one out because this one made news. You know, anytime they put my name or my face in the paper, they're going to sell extra papers. I know the algorithms. I got it. I get it. I'm just asking for some royalties. When you use my name, when you use my face, just throw your girl a bone. You know, I'm the only one on council without a job and a pension or income, right? So I can use some extra assistance here. But you never get it right. And the person who never, ever gets it right, and I never go to their website, but I did go to the Business Journal. And I tell you, every single thing that they had on me on the Business Journal is a negative. And then you highlight the least significant thing that I do on council, which is a cleanup. Some may say it's the least. I said it's the least, but I actually think it's probably one of the best things that we can do in our community is to pick up trash off of the streets. Nonetheless, I came to City Council to effectuate change via policy. But unfortunately, due to some maneuvering of our leadership, I have been blocked from engaging in that process. But by God, where there's a will, there's a way. And Dr. Touré, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And I have to thank the Savannah Coalition of Athletics and Recreation in our city, a group of Little League football players who are passionate about community. They rose up, they made a demand, and guess what, y'all? they are going to get exactly what it is that they need. And they have a plan of action whereby they are proposing to reduce the episodes of gun violence and homicide in our community among our African American youth who are dying at alarming rates on the street in 3 to 5 years. And I'm so happy to be able to support them. Now, this item where we authorize the city manager to execute a contract for legislative services with Holland and Knight in the amount of $102,000. The city's legislative services contract provides professional representation and liaison services with the Georgia General Assembly, Chatham County Legislative Delegation. Listen, this is for our lobbyists. It's in layman's terms, it's for lobbyists, right? A lobbyist. Every year, we are entertained by an opportunity to engage in lobbying activity at the Capitol. They say that we will either be assisted by blocking something that would adversely affect the city, or we will find some supportive opportunity via this lobbyist, right? Okay, we have a legislative agenda the city manager is currently working on, and he's going to submit that, and these lobbyists are supposed to go forth and prosper. We had 3 lobbyists. I'm talking fast because I got to get through the show. And we have 3 lobbyists, right? 3 lobbying firms. Well, one of the firms selected an individual who was a local representative of a company called Savannah PR, Moncello Stewart. I love him dearly. He's a nice guy. He's a swell guy. He's provided support to me in various capacities throughout the years. Just being cordial, right? Nothing business related. I've never done business with him. So his name surfaced. I recognize his name more from the Savannah Black Chamber, but also because he ran the mayor's campaign. He ran Mayor Van Johnson's campaign. So I'm looking at this, but the one thing that catches my attention more, because I am a fiscal, I just, when it comes to fiscal responsibility, I'm always crunching pennies. I love a deal. I love a sale, right? I'm always like, we don't need to spend that much money. So I see first, not that Moncello Stewart is a sub for the winning bidder, but I see that the winning bidder bid $27,000 more than the lower bidder, who actually was more of a diverse and minority represented company than the other company. I wish I had the pictures to show you. It would be like black and white, literally, right? And race not being the issue, because Moncello Stewart is African American. He's a black man. He's a black man. Here's what I want to say to you. Here's what I want to say to you. I can't even think of the lady's name. Lou Phelps with Savannah Business Journal. Here's what I want to say to you, because you always get it wrong. You always get it wrong. You always get it wrong. I don't even know how you keep your job. I don't even know how that thing even still exists. Nobody knows what it is. I hate that I even mentioned it. Do not go click on it. Do not go look for it. My people, just don't do it, because I don't want to give them any credit. My questioning essentially rose out of my concern that we were going with a company whose bid came in at $27,000 more. Now, the philosophy of the city of Savannah is to go with the lowest bidder, but also to go with the minority contractor, right? Or who has minority participation, I should say. The deal here is I was accused of being, by the mayor, a conspiracy theorist, and my comments were received as nonsense and an insult to city staff, because I raised the issue that, one, it was unethical and consistent with behaviors of the previous council, who all got voted out for these very same behaviors. And so, no, I do not have a problem with a black man getting a contract from the city of Savannah. We advocate all day, every day for minorities to receive contracts from the city of Savannah. I have a problem with a black man getting a contract from the city of Savannah who is connected to another black man who is in a position of authority and influence, period, point blank. Bates Lovett, our city attorney, it may not be illegal, but how many of you know that the mere appearance of impropriety is almost worse than the act itself? So what do? What do? We recognize it, we call it out, and we let the public know about it, because we have a fiscal responsibility where this community is concerned. So Blue, get it right next time. Authorize the city manager to execute a contract for water, sewer, stormwater line repair services with South Champion Construction in the amount of $4,353,500. I raised this because this service will be used by various public works departments. Currently, over 2,000 miles of water and sewer and stormwater mains are maintained by the city. So this is really, really important. This is really important, and you will find that if ever you have a backup, or if we have a spill or stormwater situation, you will find that this is very, very important. So $4 million of your tax money is spent on maintaining that. It takes a lot to run this city. Again, we spend big money every 2 weeks. And then ultimately, we had the adoption of the Racial Equity Leadership Task Force, the real report. I have no problem with these task force. The only thing I ask is that we really put some teeth to the task force. We've crunched the data, Dr. Teray. We know what the statistics say. We know what the numbers are. We've known for years, right? So here we are, still crunching data, collecting statistics, and trying to validate what our problem is. It's time to create policies and simply just do something about it. Dr. Teray, speaking of doing something about it, we are here today. This morning, I was asked to speak to the Black Chamber, and we talked about how they do business with the city of Savannah, the procurement process, and I'll talk about that in another show, taking people who are interested in doing business with the city through that procurement process. We talked about the ARPA funds, and I basically told them that we have a budget meeting tomorrow morning starting at 8:30, where the city manager is going to roll out his budget plan for the next year, which will be inclusive of how we're going to spend the ARPA funds. $27 million has been sitting in the bank since May. $27 million. So if it's sitting in the bank, how do we justify our need, right? Anyway, the city manager has a plan to spend those funds on housing, affordable housing, homelessness, and place-based sites, as well as public safety. So we're going to look to hear more about that. We'll keep you informed as we go along. But we also talked about, one of the questions they had, Dr. Teray, was, what is the city of Savannah doing for Black businesses? So I asked the question, what has the majority African American council with a Black mayor done for Black business since we've been in office? So in the words of John F. Kennedy, I changed it around. Ask not what your city can do for you or what you can do for your city, but ask what your city has done for Black business. So with that, sir, I want to fast forward and talk about historically some of the things that municipalities can do in terms of positioning themselves to really recognize what an African American agenda looks like and why it's needed.
Well, I want to throw some things out there, and we'll get into that. That when you posed the question, that statement to them, did any of them respond? Did any of them give you a response, or did they just listen to it and that was it?
There was not much opportunity for banter, so the answer to that would be no.
Okay, all right. So that is a question, and that is tied to, again, we look at, say, these agendas. But I'm going to share something with you also. So as they vilify you in the media, this is a pattern that has always gone on here. And we always find that what has happened historically with regard to Savannah Morning News and other Caucasian-operated businesses that are media conglomerates have taken a negative attitude when it has come to Black leadership here in Savannah, historically. No matter how they paint the picture of WW law, there were points in time that people did not look favorably upon law. You know, I'm going to get my statements with regard to law, but also I'm going to throw it out there that how they have not liked Black leadership that has stood out and spoken out. They did not like Dr. Ralph Mark Gilbert, did not like Dr. Gilbert, did not like Reverend James Sims, So those of you who attend Savannah State University, you will not have a school if it was not for in Savannah, Georgia, if it was not for Reverend James Sims, and he was a thorn in the side to racism. He never let up on racism from the 1800s to the very time that he died in the 1900s. Never let up on it. Did not slide. They were so afraid of him that when he became the judge of a court here, they went to Atlanta, had the court abolished.
Wow.
So that is our legacy. Then when we say those of us from Savannah State and we play these games, but then also come to contemporary times that I tell folks that Bobby Hill, people talk about Bobby Hill, the great attorney Bobby Hill, who was also a politician. They went about also slandering Bobby Hill. Then coming even closer to home, that in 2016, 2014, there was a name that was always in the media that they were attacking. And some of us went right along with it, or our silence was complicit. So that gave them the thought that this is what they can do. That's Commissioner Yusuf Shabazz. And that's why, and people know, I had talked about this. When they kept attacking Yusuf, people sat on the sideline and said nothing. So what happens now, when I see them doing this in 2020 with Alderman Keisha Gibson Carter and any other alder persons, it is a continuation of that. And I'm saying, community in Savannah, good people, when are y'all going to finally stand up? And as she said, do not support these media outlets that do not give fair information, who are slandering people and libeling people. See, because they know that you don't stand up and say anything, even when you're going to talk about a Black media only presentation, but none of them going to tell you that they knew about that type of stuff. But again, we sit silent. And so what is that Black agenda? That Black agenda is one that you stand up and speak out for the truth, that you don't shy away from it. And to go back in time, that even under the first administration of Mayor Otis Johnson, Dr. Alamayu from Savannah State, and some of y'all have heard me share this before, Dr. Alamayu presented, he showed with regard to the metropolitan areas in the state of Georgia, he showed Augusta, he showed Macon, Columbus, Albany, and Savannah. Who was on the bottom of pretty much all of the stats regarding Black businesses and Black economics? It was Savannah, Georgia, and Dr. Alamayu said Savannah should actually be second at the time, because now people in Columbus are going to say Muskogee County should be them. But at the time, Dr. Alamayu said Savannah should be second, and Savannah's at the very bottom. And he said, I'm just giving you the numbers. He said, but he said there needs to be some investigation as to find out why that is the case. That is with regard to Black businesses being established, Black businesses being supported. So again, and that Black agenda has to be about that, because I've shared with folks, even on my tours, people who do my tours in the city of Savannah, when we're downtown, I'm discussing this, they're looking at me like stunned, like, wait a minute, you all are majority Black city, you have a majority African-American city council, you have African-Americans in leadership position. They're like, what, then why are y'all like this? I said, guess what? When you think somebody else has the power and you feel beholden to other people, you don't even see your greatness. You don't realize that you are a giant. You are a giant who has been taught to think that you are basically an infant. And so we function as such. And so that agenda now goes and address all the issues and the ills in the community, but then also now take it to another level to now provide the joys in the community, provide again the quality of life in the city, or that community. And so the responsibility of all governments, this is on the legal side, they tell you, with regard to why sometimes the courts sometimes say, oh no, we can't go and address that issue with regard to that, or basically dismiss that action that is being done by the government, because the government has a right, or excuse me, has a responsibility to address the health, the safety, and the general welfare of all its citizens. That's why each government has that responsibility. So what is the responsibility of our government? To address the safety, the health, and the general welfare. Do we see them advocating and doing that at times? We see a failure on that part. And so that Black agenda must be about that, because guess what? When you look out for African Americans, everybody benefits, because this has been the special group of people who have been marginalized in this society. You can't deny it. You might want to try to argue against it, but you can't deny it. You see it. We see basically the disenfranchisement that has occurred here. We see the economic disenfranchisement, the social, the education. We've seen that. So that agenda now addressing that everybody benefits from it. But what happened? Those people who want to still maintain the power for themselves, they'll fight you on that and then misinfluence the people and have their minions with the media, they're not going to get the lies.
And that was really good what you said about when African Americans, Black people are supported, everybody benefits. And I want people to recognize that we talk a lot about in our advocacy efforts what is needed for the Black community, what is needed for our Black youth. Well, that's primary in the focus for us because that's where we see the most hurt. That's where we see the most lack. There is no other demographic dying at alarming rates on the streets of Savannah other than the Black man and Black boys. None. And we can't argue that. And so I unapologetically make provisions in my advocacy efforts for that demographic. No, I don't ignore others at all.
That's right.
We fight for Savannah. We fight for Savannah, but it is incumbent upon us to acknowledge the obvious, because in ignoring the obvious, we become complicit and thereby culpable. When you talked about the misinformation of the media, what I want to add to that is the fact that the media has a responsibility to the community. I would venture to say that the media is actually responsible for the amount of crime we have in our community when they provide cover for the establishment as opposed to coverage. When you are providing cover and not exposing those elements that are consistent with recognizing that this is a failed administration where policy presentation is concerned, we haven't addressed anything related to policing practices. We haven't addressed anything related to reparations. We haven't addressed anything related to how we are going to serve our small and marginalized businesses, particularly in the face of the main entity in our city that is responsible for giving small business loans, our local small business administration, who essentially via the CARES Act of 50 businesses who received up to $50,000 at the height of the pandemic. Only 2 were African American.
And some of the businesses that received, that was the Caucasian businesses that received the funding. From my information, I was informed that they were no longer in operation. It was paying off the loans that they had.
They paid off existing debt, pre-existing debt. They retired pre-existing debt that was on the books of SBA.
But so when you, to them.
Right. So when you present to the city council a racial equity, the real task force, and you present a resolution, it's smoke and mirrors, it's gaslighting. It's like, stop lying to the people. Just like with the 3% increase, you talk to any City of Savannah personnel who does not make above $30,000. You talk to any one of them and they will tell you that 3% increase was more harmful than it was helpful. Because 50 cents to $1 can put them in another tax bracket. When you give them only 3%, and we increase our insurance. And so that little bit of money goes back out the window. But when you give 3% to a person who's making $100,000, $120,000, $150,000, that makes a big difference to them. Right? And so we have to stop gaslighting the people. Stop with the smoke screen. When you say you are participating in real racial equity, in our mayor's office, you have 2 women who have worked through 4 or more administrations, from Floyd up to now, barely making $50,000. But you have 2 Black women who's been there since Floyd or earlier, but you bring in a woman who was actually terminated by the previous administration. You bring her in at $10,000 more than what those two Black women make, and you give this white woman, your personal assistant, your henchman who does all your dirty work, not only do you pay her $10,000 more, in the next year, you allow her to broker a $15,000 raise. What kind of, so stop with the foolishness. When we talk about racial equity, it starts in-house. The city of Savannah is the most racist organization in this city.
And why do you say that?
So until the system is racist. I said it. It is. I see it every single day. So until we get it right, you cannot be serious about racial equity when you have people in departments who have more years, more experience, more education, and they supervise more people and they get paid less. And they're of a different hue. You cannot, in a city that's majority African American, justify why the top leadership in your city is white and make more money than most of the African Americans. So stop it. Don't waste the citizens' time with propaganda of racial equity when we are not being real about it. We're going to move to the President Biden's executive order 13985 is what they asked me about. So here's what I said to them, Dr. Teray. Related to the executive order 13985, and we have to recognize that we have to have these policies and these orders because there's no equity, little equity in our country when it comes to race, especially where economics is concerned. This order makes provisions for advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. In this executive order, there were 11 sections that range from definitions, revocations, and general provisions, so forth and so on. It's very, boilerplate. It just goes on to talk about the intent under this policy. The order calls for the federal government to pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color, others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty. And we know it, Dr. Teray. We know it. We get it. We got it. But guess what I told him, Dr. Teray? This executive order that was released in June, July, August of 2021, guess what? This executive order of, what did I say it was? 13985 is only worth the heart and spirit of which the hands and heart is held in. It's just, I took him to school and I told him, I said, it's just like in 1863 when Abraham Lincoln signed the executive order freeing slaves. And guess what, Dr. Teray? He signed it in 1863. The slaves didn't become free until 1865. 2 years.
Had no control.
So you can have a racial equity task force. You can have a real task force. You can have your executive orders. But guess what? If you are not going to do what is right without it and do what you want to do anyway. So people, wake up. Stop listening to everything you hear. Get it for yourself. You don't even believe me. Like I said, go to the agenda. Don't just pull up last week's agenda. Pull up the one that was 2 weeks before that. Go to the very first one. And you know what I want you to do? I got a better one for you. Here's what I want y'all to do. This is a lot of homework. I want you to go to the City of Savannah website. I want you to pull up these agendas. And I want you to pull up the agenda from Eddie DeLoach's administration, any one of them, 3, 4, just pull them. And I want you to match it to what we're doing today. It's nothing has changed. The only thing that changes is the players. The game is still the same, y'all. And I told you, I didn't come to play the game. I came to change the game. I can't help that y'all sent me to a gunfight with a butter knife. And I had to sharpen my skills and use some new weapons. So I am unapologetically going forth for the people I represent, because guess what? Anybody who needs what I'm fighting for, they don't have a problem with my fight.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
I don't need what I'm fighting for.
Mm-hmm.
I could appreciate the comfort and security of knowing that tomorrow is going to be okay. That's a little bit of a challenge for me a little bit sometimes. But guess what? Everything I'm fighting for, I have it. But for some reason, God wove into my fabric, into my being, concern, care, love.
Yes.
And I can't shake it. I can't shake it. So with this same executive order, Dr. Toure, we go in and we talk about how federal government programs, and this is really why I wanted you on the show tonight. And I want you to just close us out with hope for the residents of Stillwell. I want you to close us out with a historical perspective as related to the housing authority. But I'll tell you this executive order is not worth anything if the hand that holds it doesn't have a right heart, a right mind, and pure intentions where people are concerned, right? So this executive order specifically starts with federal government entities. The federal government entity that runs and that serves as an overarch of our housing authority is the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. So how could it be that this executive order has gone out months ago talking about what we should do for disadvantaged communities and equitable treatment and fair and equality and blah, blah, blah. And we got almost 200 elderly African-American, majority African-American and white residents in Stillwell with one elevator in a high rise. Should we go into the other deplorable conditions? Mold, mildew. So how can this be? How can this be? And I want to say to the families of Stillwell, within my authority and within my limited power, because I'm a minority on council, not minority by race, but minority by number. What y'all need to know about minorities in Savannah, and I tell you all the time, I'm done in Savannah blaming the white man for what black people don't have. It's the black man's fault. It's the black man who allowed a white man to do what he's doing to keep you down. So stop screaming all this racism stuff and all of it. No, it's elitism, classism, and nepotism. Dr. Toure, the residents of Stillwell, I'm getting calls by the hour every day. I'm angry, really, frankly, and frustrated because I know there is no way that the conditions there, in my limited wisdom, in my lay mind, where safety and fire is concerned, I was taught stop, drop, and roll fire drills. But I was also taught if there's a fire and you're in a building with multiple stories, don't take the elevator, take the stairs. How is it safe, Dr. Toure, that we have a 20-story high-rise thereabout with nearly 200 elderly residents, a great percentage of them immobile, wheelchair, walker, and they are not assigned to the first floor only. You have people who cannot walk who are above the first floor. So even if the elevators did work, the people couldn't get out. I don't know. So accountability. One of the reasons why there hasn't been anything done about it from management perspective at Stillwell, accountability. You cannot hold people accountable. And here's what y'all should know about Keisha Gibson Carter by now. Ask Larry Chisholm, ask Meg Heap, ask Van Johnson. When it comes to me and my people, and you doing right by my people, I ain't got no respect to friendship, kinship, relationship. Deuces. Deuces. It's not even personal for me. But I can't be breaking bread with you. I can't have wine and cheese with you. I can't have brunch with you. I can't talk about hair and nails and kids. I have nothing in common with you. I have no words for you. If you and your work, if you're getting a paycheck, if you are getting a paycheck, listen to me, nonprofit leaders, listen to me, service workers, listen to me, those who are in human and social services. If you are earning a paycheck, if your paycheck is earned on the backs of people who are hurt, that is homeless, victims, individuals who are nutrition insecure, people who cannot advocate and fight for themselves, people who are disabled, if you get a paycheck on the backs of people who are vulnerable, don't you dare go to sleep on their watch. You don't have a right to. You have to make sacrifices for them. And so when I am working on behalf of people, it's from a spirit of altruism, but it's also from a spirit of humility. It's not easy being the conscious of doing what's right when people around you do not have the spirit to do the right thing by the people. So what we want to do here, where the residents of Stillwell are, is we want to remind everybody who gets a paycheck, starting with the director, Earlene Davis, who's soon to probably be getting a big pension. If it's worth anything to you, when you lay your head on your pillow at night, just allow yourself for one moment to think about the people you represent. Don't stay in these positions and on these jobs so long till you become desensitized to the plight of the people. Switch gears, try something different. Don't just stay there and watch the clock and wait for lunch or wait for the next holiday. Represent the people. Dr. Teray, you have anything to add to that?
I was going to throw up to you. Why you act like this is something brand new? You act like this is brand new stuff. Alderman Kesha Gibson Carter, I distinctly remember sitting in offices and having you come inside there. So I'm going to ask you a question. Do you remember Stubbs Towers? Stubb Towers.
Yes.
Stubb Towers. And did they not have to tear down Stubb Towers? That was 15 stories. Stubb Towers had flooded. And again, you have people there in the flooding, and they're going to say because of the flooding, that basically furthered the end with regards to now having imploded. And so now you see a new venture now occurs over in that area. And so, but this is almost like a pattern. And I said to folks, just as you said, you're getting the calls. I said to anyone who's part of the listening audience right now, that if that was your mother, your father, your grandparents, or an elderly family member, should you not be concerned about it? People act like it's a problem for people to be concerned about it. But guess what? It'll be a different story if those people who are residing inside Stillwell Towers, if they were from, let's say, from the Landings, if they were from Ardsley Park, if they were from Habersham Woods, if they were from those places, if those people who were living there and had formerly lived in those areas and their children still living in Ardsley Park, the Landings, guess what? We'll be up in arms about, they'll be up in arms about it. Mm-hmm. But what's going on? Here go people who are marginalized, people who get caught up into buying into hype and not looking at substance. So they just go right along with it. So that's the pain of other people. We got to change that. We have to change it. Why isn't it an
outcry? Why isn't it an outcry?
Right. That's right.
For our citizens.
That's right.
I'm going to have to go back and read what Ms. Chaplin's saying. She's saying a lot. Why isn't it an outcry for our citizens? Yeah. We are our brother's keeper. And I know you got some pushback because you made some posts about the plight of the people just to send some love and to let them know that, somebody's advocating for it. I mean, it was just a post. It's not like you sent a rescue boat for them or a helicopter, but Here's what I have to say to the dissenters and the detractors. Here's what we say. If you ain't gonna do nothing, shut up.
Whoa.
Shut up and get out of the way of people who are doing something.
That's true.
If you're not going to advocate, don't stop my advocacy.
That's right.
And again, this isn't personal, except for the people who are at fault, who want to make it personal as opposed to professional. This is about a job. When you go to McDonald's and you order fries, you want hot fries. I'm not going to get upset with you if you go back in the line and say my fries were cold. I need some hot fries. We're just asking for some hot fries for these people. That's all. And Summit, yes, you're right. Summit, the same. If it were any other demographic, we would not be having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. That the media would have been on it, on top of it, and I've thrown some stuff out and let you all know. I did put it out there to the media also and ask them a question. Some of them, they say, hey, listen, y'all need to be involved in this because this addresses safety.
They have not, you know what they went to cover? They went to cover a pageant, the Queen pageant. On the day it was only one elevator working, the media showed up to cover a pageant, said nothing about the one elevator working, said nothing about the fact that people have to wait 15 to 20 minutes for an elevator and they got doctor's appointments to get to.
And there was a fire there recently in the building last month, if I'm not mistaken. It was a fire there, and there had been fires there before that, or at least firemen have been called there before. So again, like what this really comes down, it's about humanity. It is again not about popularity. It's about humanity, about respecting humanity. If you respect humanity, and that's why I tell folks, it's not about saying people saying being professional. This is about a moral obligation. We have a moral obligation to look out for people in our community, and especially when it is the elderly, the disabled, and the children. We have an obligation to do that. But what some of us do, we are so complicit in this with regards to our silence, and we just want to get along, or we want to curry some favors. I'm like saying, okay, guess what happened? When this same issue happens to you, when you are now an elder or you're disabled, you want to reflect back and say, I should have gone along with Alderman Kesha Gibson Carter. I should have gone along with Jamal Touré. Because I tell folks, I say, listen, Sabrina Kent Cook, when she put that out there and sent it out to some folks, I saw it, I was like, wow. I said, okay, somebody else. And when she said, I thought it got resolved, and she said she can no longer be silent, I had to champion that cause. I had to put it out there. But when someone then contacted me and say that, hey, or people questioning about I'm throwing shade or something like that, I'm like, this is not about no shade. This is about moral obligation. And I'm saying this now, I'm going to put it out there. To you church folk who do not get on the board with regard to addressing this and making a call for justice for this. And when I say the moral justice for this right here, you can't say anything to me. You can't. Because God tells you need to stand up and speak out about this. So that's why I tell you, anytime y'all come running to me about something, you better always understand what I'm standing on. I'm standing on the moral obligation, regardless of what side it is, who it is, ethnicity, anything like that. That's why I don't have any issue. That will give, as you said, Alderwoman, that again, it's not about, say, African American opposed to Caucasians. This is about who are the people that are affected? And so they have to be African American. So I got to address it. So if I see the racism involved, I got to say something about it. If I see the elitism involved, I got to say something about it. And that's what's going on. We have seen how communities got wiped out.
Yeah. And then we also have to address those issues related to the fact that when we're looking at these pieces and we're looking at who it's happening to, and we match that with who it's not happening to.
Yes.
We see a continuation of the disparity, the same type of disparity over and over again. But you know what, Dr. Touré? I have to dial this back to my work. And I can't help it because when I've done what I've done for so long, it's just in me. I could be standing next to somebody in the grocery store and I can tell if they are a victim of domestic violence. I can pick up on a pedophile spirit. Mm-hmm. And it's very uncomfortable. It's very unnerving for me. Mm-hmm. So when I see behaviors like what we experience as vocal advocates, passionate leaders And I'm, you know, if I were a man, even if I were a Black man, I would not be labeled entitled the way that I am. And so I accept that. I receive it. I understood my assignment when I took on this responsibility of public service. I knew what it came with. It's fine. Kesha can take it. I can take the blows. I'm good. But who's not good are my people. And so when I see people who exhibit reactions consistent to what you got this week, when you essentially just made an outcry for the people, you know, you decided to be a voice for the voiceless. It reminds me of the child who tells the auntie or the uncle that they're being molested. And the response is, don't say nothing about that. Don't tell anybody. Only to have that uncle, that brother, that cousin go on and molest multiple sisters and cousins and nieces. And 30, 40 years later, everybody got the same story about that nasty uncle. Because we didn't want to bring shame to the family. We can't get him in trouble. We can't let anybody know that this is happening to our house. And so with leadership in our town, it's child molestation like. Leadership in our town is child molestation like when it comes to the people who support them. They want to be on a winning team, but when they discover that who they thought was a winner is actually a loser in their policy practices, in their leadership behaviors, they would rather continue to lose or have others lose as opposed to holding the person accountable.
Oh, yes.
And it becomes so incestuous, just like in this situation with Stillwell. Y'all stay with me because all of this is related. It's just like the situation at Stillwell in the housing authority. There's no accountability because the mayor has appointed his friends, again, people from his campaign team, from his fraternity. You appoint them to the housing authority board. So the representatives, get this, y'all. This is why there's nothing happening at Stillwell. This is why there's no accountability, because they have a board of friends helping friends who are not holding Earlene Davis accountable. And so what happens is those individuals are not capable. They are, but they're not brave enough. So they would rather engage in this incestuous behavior. And so I like the way the Lord is allowing me to use this analogy tonight, because this is going to tie into Thanksgiving. And I was going to do a special piece on guess who's not coming to dinner.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to tell some families something that you may not have recognized. Some of you have relatives, you have children, you have cousins, you have uncles, you have aunties, even grandparents who have not come to your house for Thanksgiving dinner, or who are indifferent to coming, or when they come, they don't stay long. They don't come because the person who molested them is there. They don't come because they know that it's the home of the person who created the engaged in the most vile act against their person, and nobody did anything about it. It could possibly be that they never told anyone. So recognize that when it comes to child molestation and sexual violence, only 10% of it is at the hand of a stranger. 90% is at the hand of a family friend or a relative, an actual relative. 60% relatives, uncles, grandfathers, brothers, fathers, and 30% is somebody who's a trusted adult to the family member, a coach, a teacher, somebody in the church. So when those individuals are not coming and they don't want to come home for Thanksgiving dinner, or they don't want to be with the family for the holidays, and for the festive occasions, recognize that it's possibly for a reason. And so in this situation where politics is concerned, Dr. Teray, I get it. I get it. People have been so engaged in incestuous relationships in politics in this town that it's embarrassing to break away. They are ashamed of the behavior, but they have to protect the actor.
I'll say this. I am not aware, and I could stand it corrected. I'm not aware of anyone from Delta Sigma Pi or Alpha Phi Alpha being on the board for the Housing Authority. I knew at one time there was one of the former a county commissioner on it, but I'm not aware. So I'm just not going to just let you throw AFI out like that. I'm just saying that. But I want to say this right here.
You said it, I did.
Right. I say, but I'm just saying that I don't know of that. But the very scenario that you gave and those situations that occur in the rise that you say you pick up on it. Going back again to our time when we first met and became brother and sister with regards to this, that one people that I used to counsel discuss this. And again, let the listening audience understand this, that it wasn't just with regards to her entire family not engaged in this stuff, that they thought it was nothing wrong with family members, with fathers and children having sexual relationships. There's nothing wrong with mothers having sexual relationships. That it was no issue with regards to uncles and aunts having sexual relationships with the children. That it was a family. And then, as this young lady told me, she said only when she had a conversation with this other sister and she shared with this other sister what she was engaging in, that sister then said to her, like, that's not right. Y'all not supposed to be doing that. And for her, it then hit her. And then when she went back to her family, said, we are not supposed to be doing this. And that's when she said they then turned against her. When she then had to basically, she said, I didn't have to go and get my children also to get us out this environment, because now we were in this world that, again, like I said, so sometimes now, which I'm just want to put it out there, we might think it's just 1, 2, or just one-on-one. That can you imagine an entire family that this is going on? How sick and insidious this is. And guess what? We're around them.
It happens.
They mask it. You wouldn't know it until like they maybe have that conversation with you, and then you not give them the light. They're like, wait a minute, this is what we grew up with. This is normal for us. This is like, if my uncle wants to have something with me, it's all right. If I want to have something with my niece or my nephew, it's okay. And then having other folks go and talk about how male relatives performing, sexual acts on them, and I'm like saying, so this is a family.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about this right here, when you through that analogy out there, I want to just say that's how insidious this is right here. When again, somebody comes to you and say it is not right for those folks over in Stillwell to have only one elevator working and they are disabled, they are elderly. That is not right, and that somebody now got to go and tell the rest of the family this is a problem. We got to stop this. We got to correct this right here. And so then we got to not have those folks now coming in and advocating, those counselors coming in and advocating on behalf. And symbolic, the counselors are the voices of the people. But guess what? If it was somebody, again, relative from the Landons, somebody relative from, from Marsley Park, we will not see this. People be up in arms about it, and get some of you, the very people sitting out here right now, y'all be mad about it too, for them. Because y'all get mad about other people's stuff, but when it comes close to home to you, you don't get mad about it. And when I say mad, I mean taking action. That again, you have to take action. You ain't gotta be, I'm gonna say, losing your temper, but it's you taking actions, because God does not like this. God is mad about this.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we have to take personal responsibility. And that brings us to another announcement. Well, I want to first say, because I'm feeling this, I think we probably are causing some triggers tonight in people who have had these unfortunate experiences. And I want to say to you something somebody has probably never said, and that is, it's not your fault It wasn't okay. And it's never too late to get the help that you need.
That's right.
Many people experience sexual violence and live with that secret for a lifetime, especially when it happens in their childhood. One of the things that happens to individuals who experience sexual violence in their youth, they get trapped in that very moment, at that age, at that stage where they were. They're still a part of that 9-year-old girl, that 8-year-old boy that's in them, that they wanted to hold on to. You have youth who are experiencing these episodes of violence before they can come to grips and terms with their own sexuality. And as a result, they go through a lifetime questioning, confusion, and turmoil. We want to tonight encourage you to get the help and assistance you need. You can reach out to me via Facebook or the City of Savannah website. My personal, my professional email and phone number is there. I can direct you to the support you need. You can call me even tonight if you desire. What we want to also recognize as we're talking about personal responsibility, we recognize that's one of the principles of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa 2020, 2021, 2021, 22 is upon us. And we will again be hosting our second annual Kwanzaa crawl. And Dr. Ture was instrumental in the creation and launching of the first Kwanzaa crawl of Savannah. And we will again be celebrating the success of African-American business, particularly restaurants in our city. Last year, there are 7 principles of Kwanzaa. We wanted to feature and highlight a business, a Black-owned restaurant every night of Kwanzaa, or each night of Kwanzaa. And between Dr. Ture and I, we were hard pressed to find 7 African-American owned restaurants in the city. This year, Dr. Ture, I am pleased to report that we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Right. We now have more than 7 Black-owned restaurants we can identify. So we're hopeful to get creative. And
that are agreeable. That's the thing, that are agreeable, because there's some who want agreeable.
We ain't begging. We're not begging. We're not begging you. But what we will do is we will highlight and identify those, and hopefully it looks like we will probably be able to have breakfast at some of the restaurants, lunch and or dinner at the others. So we're looking for a fabulous time to feature and highlight these African-American restaurants, local artists, as well as support for our local nonprofits. And while Kwanzaa is an historically African-American celebration, we, of course, invite and embrace everybody to get on board and support African-American restaurants. And this actually was birthed out of the fact that those CARES Act dollars were not spent appropriately, Dr. Ture. And when we learned that was the case, we basically had a conniption. It was like, we got to do something. And so this was the response to that. But now we're at a place and space where we see that we're slowly gaining, and we want to continuously encourage people to step out there. So many people during the pandemic experienced great loss, great fiscal loss, but there also have been an enormous amount of opportunity that resulted from the pandemic as well.
Yes.
And so we have a lineup of historians who are going to engage us through storytelling, and artists who will share various forms of dance and poetry. So we're excited. We're excited about it. So listen for the announcement soon.
Yes, indeed.
You want to close us out with anything? And I want to thank you all. Oh, one other major item on the agenda. I was so happy. We finally got a city manager in the seat who was brave enough to tackle our impact fee ordinance. I championed this from day one on council, and we're finally at the place. You can go to our website, and learn. Actually, just go to Facebook or the City of Savannah's YouTube page, and you can download the meeting and learn more about what this impact fee ordinance is and what it is not. I want to say it is not a tax on citizens. It's not a tax on citizens. The impact fee ordinance essentially will provide opportunities for our localities to experience more harmony in their communities as they grow. More specifically, the impact fee will provide a mechanism whereby new growth and development would pay their fair share of costs of public facilities that will be needed to serve for future growth. For example, take Highlands. Highlands is a community that grew very, very fast, but it grew without an impact fee. And as a result, they don't even have a police department. And they have a fire department that they just got, a fire station that is, no police precinct. But impact fees help us to establish such things as libraries, police, public safety services, infrastructure. This will also be specific to homes as well as businesses. It helps with creating and sustaining roads and infrastructure as well as parks, animal control, water and sewer. Last year, Savannah had $600 million in new growth. You can only imagine if there was a fee attached to that growth, what our communities could look like. So we are in full support of this effort, primarily so that we are able to absorb the blows that come with the creation of new growth in our communities. And with that, Dr. Teray, that's all I have. Sounds like Coach Carter just got home with all that noise in here. So listen, and when can we watch your show? When is your show coming up?
Our show comes on Wednesday at 6 p.m. And guess what? It's Coach Carter's segment. And guess what? Diaper butts. Diaper butts. Some of you got diaper butts and other things and suntan and all that. Diaper butts. Yes, you're going to see the diaper. Be ready for it.
Oh my God. I can't.
It's electrifying.
Wednesday on ATR at what time?
6 p.m. Run tell that 6 p.m. ATR diaper butts, y'all. I have no idea. And guess what? We are going to allow you to use that segment anytime you want to use it. If you got to have a fill-in, bam, you can run tell that. So like diaper butts. I can't. Diaper butts. And then guess what? And the one coming up into the month, I can only imagine what's going to be coming out of Coach Carter's mind, because all thing I do, I just let him tell me what he's going to do, and I just roll with it. Yeah, I can only imagine what Coach Carter's what we're going to be taping for the next show, because we got Diaper Bus this week right here, and then bam, it's electrifying, and then I can only imagine, because y'all got Thanksgiving. I can't wait.
Well, listen, I'm working with Boston Scientific on a campaign to bring awareness to colorectal cancer among African American men, and basically just get men in general to get their butts at the doctor's office to get their colonoscopy. So diaper butts, colonoscopy. I think we might be onto something. I think I can make that fit.
I was a little different, but yeah, all right.
Okay. Maybe Well, how about this? Maybe y'all can do a diaper butt.
We can get that all worked out. So yeah.
Well, maybe y'all could do a diaper butt part 2. How about that?
Yeah, we always meet, but that's right. We do that. That's no problem. That's right. Yeah, it's happening. So now because that Thanksgiving, I can't wait to see what it's going to be. Because again, I'm just saying, it comes out the mind of Coach Carter, and I just run with that. I just run with it. He said, "This is what we're gonna do." I'm like, "Yes, Coach Carter." Bam, right there. Woo!
So you run with sleds and you run with whatever he says. Okay, I got you. Listen, I appreciate you joining us tonight and offering a different perspective. And we want to encourage you to keep doing what you are doing for the people and being a bystander who will stand in the gap for us politicians who are just trying to find anybody to tell somebody about however it goes. Listen, I'm done, y'all. It's been a good night. We really appreciate you, and I love you, Savannah. Good night.
Appreciate you. One of our champions. That's right.